In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make your group portraits pop quickly and easily using Luminar 4. I've already done some basic edits to this image using some of the tools in the Essentials panel, but I want to draw your attention to two in particular. These are great for applying to portraits. The first one is the AI structure. And the AI structure will allow you to enhance or decrease the amount of detail and clarity in particularly the background. It does a really good job of recognizing where there are faces. So if I go to the plus side, it's going to increase contrast. You see that in the background, but not so much in the faces. It is applying to them somewhat, but not as much, because it does a pretty good job of identifying where the people are. So if I want to minimize the background distractions that I talked about earlier, I'm going to go to the minus side. Now, if I go all the way to minus 100, of course it's applying to the people as well. Now I could go in and mask them out, which would be a great thing to do, or I could just bring the slider up a little bit and make it sort of less strong. So I'm going to settle on somewhere around minus 50 on that one. The second one I want to bring your attention to is the color panel. Right? If you don't see all of these options down the bottom, just make sure to click Advanced Settings and that will open up. And the one that you want to pay attention to here is the orange sliders. Okay, so they come in colors, red, orange, yellow. So that's the second one. Every person has some degree of orange in their skin. So when you are adjusting these sliders, you're going to be affecting the people in the picture. Right? So you have to be careful that you don't go too far or it's going to look unnatural. Okay? So make sure that if you're increasing, you're going to lighten. If you're decreasing, you're going to darken, that you keep the effect subtle. Now I'm going to go around plus 20 on the luminance. And saturation will give you more color, intense color of the skin. So if you have someone who is pale, you can help give them a bit more of a suntan by increasing the saturation, but again, keep it subtle. So I'm going to go plus 20 on that one as well. You don't want them to look like they've spent all day in the tanning salon. So that's all I'm going to do in the Essentials panel. Now comes the magic, which is in the Portrait panel. So that's the smiley face on the right. The first one is the AI Skin Enhancer. So what this one does, the amount slider is going to dictate the amount of smoothing that is going to apply to the skin. Let's zoom in and have a closer look at what it's doing. So if I take this one all the way to 100, it still does a really nice job of keeping texture in the skin so they don't look like plastic people or mannequins. But I'm going to bring it down a little bit to about 60. So I like the softening effect on the skin, but again, keep it a bit more subtle. The shine removal slider will help if you have people that have oily skin or highlights on their nose or forehead, and just help to tone those down a little bit. So let's go about plus 35 on that one. Now the next one is a little toggle or a tick box called AI Skin Defects Removal. So when you check that off, what Luminar is doing is it's looking for skin imperfections, in particular blemishes, things that you want to remove from somebody's face. So when you check that off, it's going to work in the background to find anything that it thinks should be removed. The challenge is that sometimes it can make a mistake, like in the case here with this fellow. Particularly when you're dealing with group photos, because the faces are a lot smaller, it's hard for the program to discern what is a blemish and what is supposed to be there. So you can quickly fix that by masking this. So I'm going to choose Edit Mask and the brush tool, erase. I'm going to leave it at 100%. I'll just make my brush a little bit smaller. And by painting on his face, basically I'm erasing that effect from that area. So I make sure that he has his mouth back. Like so. So that's one thing to watch out for when you're doing group portraits in particular. Just zoom into each face and double check that nothing's been removed that shouldn't have been. The last one I'm going to use in the AI panel is the Portrait Enhancer, and I've already chosen some settings for this one. I'm choosing to increase the dark circles removal to about plus 50, and I've got slim face and enlarge eyes set to plus 20 each. Those are ones you want to keep sort of subtle and towards the left-hand side. Don't go crazy with them. You want it to be an enhancement and not change the look of their face completely. The enlarged eyes at 20 will just help anybody that's a little bit squinty in a group portrait make their eyes look a little bit more open. And Slim Face does a really nice job on anybody at plus 20. Nobody's going to complain that they look slimmer. Now the face light is the one that I'm really excited about. That's the first one at the top of this panel. Okay, so face light analyzes the image and looks for the faces and lightens them. So I'm going to take this one all the way to 100 just to show you what it does so that you can see it obviously. Now we have ghostly people, so we've gone a little bit too far, but this is giving you an idea of how well it's found all of these faces and lightens them. And that's the part that's really exciting for group portraits. So I'm going to bring that one down to about 45. Okay. The last thing I'm going to do is to finish off this portrait is to apply the Orton effect, and I like to leave mine on type 1 set to amount 10. That gives a little bit of softening without going too overboard, and it's a very gentle, appealing look for the image. Now the beautiful thing is that once I've done all this, I can save this as a look in Luminar and apply it on another image. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when I save these settings and apply it to another group. Inside of Luminar, there's a few ways that you can transfer settings from one image to the other. You can literally just copy and paste. You can use the sync settings, or you can save it as a Luminar look, which I have done and applied to this image here. If you're going to use those settings over and over again, like this instance of group portraits, definitely save it as a look, and then you can use it again and again. So the before image, let's take a look. This is what it looked like prior to me applying the look, and I chose this image to see how well Luminar would perform with the bride and the groom in profile and their faces not facing the camera. So it's done an amazing job, even though their people are in a different position and the faces are turned sideways. I hope this video has given you some ideas on how you can use the powerful tools inside of Luminar to edit and retouch your group portraits and speed up your photo editing workflow.